In this session, I'll show you how to post expenses on the Coopsolve platform. Before you start posting expenses, it's important that you check your chart of account to be sure that you have the necessary ledger to manage the categories of expenses that you'll be posting. To do that, you go under Financials, and the first menu there is Chart of Accounts. So click on Chart of Accounts, and that will open the chart of accounts up. So in your chart of account, you see all the necessary ledgers that comes with the system. You should pay attention to the expenses. So here I have assets. If you scroll down, liabilities, and your equity, you have your income ledgers, and the fourth part is the expenses. So these are your expenses. So under that, you will have your selling and general administration accounts and your financial costs, your payrolls, and taxations. So all of these are your expense ledger. However, if you find out that there is a categories of expense that is not available here, or that you cannot lump under any of these categories, then you will need to create a ledger for it. In creating the ledger, make sure you pile it under expenses or put it under one of the main um, group under the expense ledger. So I'll just quickly do that now. To create a ledger, you click on create new ledger from here. And so here we have asset. You select your expense account. So select expenses and then give that ledger a name. So once you give the ledger a name, and you click on submit, and that will create that ledger for you. So like I said, you need to make sure that the expense ledger already exists. If the expense ledger exists, then you can go ahead and post your expense payment. To do that, you go under financials, you click on entries, and under entries, click on payments. So, so here you select the date, the number is auto-generated, so you won't have to touch that. You select the date of the payment, and then select the payment method, if it's cash, if it's transfer. Then you create the debit side. The debit side will be one of your expense ledger. So if I go under my expense ledger, these are all my expense ledger. So I'll call it business premise. Okay. So the debit side would be one of your expense ledger. And your expense ledger usually starts from 04, 04 dash something, something, something. So there you put the amount and you put the narration. Okay. Then you click on the plus sign. So that will show up in here. Then you select the credit side, which will often almost always be your bank ledger. So I'll select our bank ledger in there and put the same amount. It should be 30,000, whatever the amount of the, and then the narration, you click on plus. Okay. So now you have the debit and the credit side, and that is balance. Take note that the system will try to get the current balance on those accounts, and if you don't have enough money in those ledger, you will have issues like this. All right, so if you are done with that, if there is a check number, you need to put that here. If there's a teller number, that needs to be here. If there's a recipient of either the teller or the check, then you need to put that here. Uh, Then the note, you can put your note here. It's essential for reconciliation or when you have an auditor coming to check your account. So once you're done with this expense, you can just post it. That will post the expense and payment. So that's how to post your expense payment. First, I said you need to check your chart of account. Make sure you have all the necessary ledgers for the categories of expenses relating to your organization. And to do the actual posting, you go under financials, entries, payments. Mm, you have the debit side, which would be an expense ledger, and the credit side, which would be a bank ledger. The amount on both ledger must be balanced before you go ahead with your posting. Okay, so that's an expense. There are cases where you receive some money that is meant for the cooperative, and those money or payments are not coming from members of the cooperative. It could be from other sources. So to make that reflect in your books, you go under financials, entries, you post them as receipt. So when you're posting as receipt, um, the debit side will be your bank ledger. You select that, and then the amount you can put it in the narration. Um, okay. And you can click on the plus sign. Then the credit side will be either your asset or your liability, depending on what kind of transaction it is. So this one is an interest on an investment. So I'll select the ledger under the asset for investment, and then put the same amount. If you're not sure of which account to credit, you can just look at your chart of account and see the ledger that match the operation that you're trying to post. And click on plus. And that's it. I mentioned the check number, the teller number, and all of this. So once you're done with this and you're okay with the way it looks, you can submit to post that to your ledger. Oh, you have to select the date. Yeah. And then you submit to post that to your ledger. So that's how to post payments that you have received that is not coming from members, or the system have not automatically post those payments. So you want them to reflect in your books. So you can check your ledger statement to see all of those payments that you have made. So if you go under financials, entries, click on all entries. That will show you all the recent posting that you have made in the system and can also give you some insights. So here it is. This is the one I post on rent, the one for salaries. So you see all of your recent posting in there. And you can click here to view details about that posting, which will show you the credit and the debit ledger for that particular posting. In a case where you have an auditor that comes in to check the account, there is a special provision for the auditor to use for reconciling, which is this button. This particular button is meant for the auditor. Well, I'll cover that in subsequent video. All right, thank you.